Have you ever run into the problem where you're out somewhere, you see something really cool, something really pretty, a sunset, some landscape, and you go to take the picture, and then when you look down at your phone or your camera, it just doesn't look the same as what you're seeing with your eye? Well, Instagram can not only help you fix that, but make you look like a professional photographer at the same time. I'll show you how. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. As you know, Successify is all about creating a life that you're proud of. I'm helping you to set higher goals and learn just those little success tips for your life. Well, there's a lot of things that I like to do in my life. I like to dabble in a lot of things. I like to say that I'm mediocre at a whole lot of things, but not really great at any one thing in particular. But of all the things that I like to do, whether it's speaking or writing or playing sports or whatever, there's one thing that I do that I always get great compliments on. Probably the only thing I get great compliments on, but consistently I get great compliments on the pictures that I upload to social media, namely Instagram. I get compliments every single day, which is always really strange to me because it's not something I ever set out to be great at or to do. It's just that I live close to the desert and I like to be out there trail running. I also like photography, and so while I'm out there early in the morning, I just snap some pictures, and because I want to share it with other people, I upload it to Instagram. Well, I think probably the reason why it always surprises me that I get complimented on those pictures is because I see what those pictures look like before they've gone through the Instagram editing process. And so they're a little bit less spectacular to me. Pictures are interesting. Pictures are a lot like people. When you take a picture with your camera, really what that picture has is potential. There's a lot of great stuff there. In fact, everything you're seeing with your eyes is in that picture. But sometimes in that photo taking process, they get hidden, they get buried, because of the settings of the camera or your phone or whatever. But they're all there, and so with a little bit of work and effort and knowing how to do it, you can actually bring out all of those great things, all of that potential in that picture. And Instagram has a really, really great set of editing tools that'll help you to do that. So this is our first tutorial ever on Successify, so I hope this works out. Let's give it a try. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump right in here. So this is a picture I took the other morning when I was out jogging in the desert behind my house. This here is what a saguaro cactus looks like on the inside. So this one is died. Those are its bones. This was about 6 o'clock in the morning, so you can see a little bit of the sunrise there in the distance. So first thing, anytime you pick a picture that you want to edit or upload to Instagram, you've already noticed that they will automatically resize it to that square shape for posting on Instagram. But your whole photo is still there, so you can scroll around, see how you want to compose your picture. In general, in photography, there's a rule called the rule of thirds. If you hold down on the picture, you'll actually see some lines pop up. They've divided the photo into 3 sections, and so you can move it along that grid. Now, the rule of thirds basically tells us that for the human eye, it's more pleasing if the subject of our picture is off-center a little bit. So we don't necessarily want to have it right in the middle, but usually in one of these thirds, so either there or over here, top and bottom. So that'll help you compose your picture. So my subject is obviously this dead saguaro cactus here, so I move him around, get him right where I want it. I'm going to have him a little bit more off center than normal, right there. Then you're going to hit next. And if you hit it right, there you go. This is where we get into the real editing. So right off the bat, you'll see this little sunshine up here. So that effect is called Lux. So if we tap on that, you'll see it says Lux. Now what Lux is going to do, it's actually a really cool tool. I think it's using a bunch of different edits simultaneously to do a number of things. It's the quickest way to add a little bit of pop to your picture. So anytime we're doing these edits, you'll see there's always a slider down here. So you can always go left and right and see what that effect does. So when you tap on Lux, it automatically sets it to 50. Right in there, that's 49.50. And then you can take it farther if you want. I usually take it a little bit farther. I just like what it does. So as you bring it over, it'll start to add a little bit more pop, some color, some definition to things. The thing that'll happen sometimes with Lux is if you get too far over, especially if you have clouds in your picture, it'll start to make the clouds look really gray. And that'll come back to bite us later. So I don't really like to have it that far over. But I do like a little bit. So I'm going to actually just leave it in the 60 range. Hit done, and then we get to our other edits. Now down here below you'll see these are the filters that most people use for their Instagram photos, and they're just preset filters that are basically a group of edits that they've already put together that you can just apply with one click. They do different things. I don't really like many of them. I'm always wishing they did something different. So down here on the bottom, you can actually click Edit. And this is going to give us a whole number of things. And these are great tools. So your first one is Adjust. So if there's anything you want to do as far as tilting, if something was off center when you took the picture, you can fix it right here. You can also zoom in and out right there. You can change the perspective of the picture. I'm going to leave mine as is. We're going to come to brightness. Now this is obvious. This is going to add brightness to your whole picture. A lot of times if you've got a picture that's a little bit dark, this one's a little bit dark because there wasn't a lot of light early in the morning, you can bring up the brightness a little bit to start to show things. Now what's going to happen with brightness is it's going to wash out some things and put light on other things. So you have to decide, how much light do I really want to add? Am I going to lose something I really want? What's the benefit of doing it? So in this one, I'm going to just take it up a little bit because I don't want to lose my cool clouds back there. We're going to hit done. We're going to come to the next one, contrast. So contrast will play with your lights and darks, how those balance out. So hit contrast. Like I said, with all of these, I like to take them all the way to this one side to see what the extreme is that way, and I'll take them to the other side to see what the extreme is that way. I usually like to bump up contrast. A lot of portrait photographers like to use contrast when they're taking pictures of models, or they just want people to pop a little bit, add a little bit of definition in the dark areas. So I'm going to bring this up because I like the way that it adds definition to my cactus there. There's nothing. Here's a little bit of contrast. Just kind of separates the colors a little bit. Next is structure. I really like structure. It'll do a couple of different things. It'll add definition to a lot of the parts in the picture. It'll also bring out some colors that sometimes you didn't see before. So we're going to slowly slide this way. Now as I get towards the top, you can see what it's done. It's really added definition to the cloud. So I went from a very soft background to where now things are becoming more defined and a little bit of more colors are coming out in some areas. With most of these edits, going all the way to 100 sometimes gives it a little bit more of a harsh look, and that might be a little much for your picture. I don't like it all the way to 100 in this picture. Sometimes I do, but I do like some of the effects, so I'm going to leave it right here in about the 67 range. Warmth is going to determine the warmth of your picture, obviously. That's why they called it warmth. But what that'll do is if you play it all the way to the left, it's going to give you a more cool look. Brings out a lot of the blues, fades a lot of the oranges and the yellows and the warm colors in favor of the blues, the greens, things like that. For a lot of desert shots, the desert's a pretty warm place and there's a lot of warm colors. So if those aren't coming through in the picture, I like to add some warmth by coming this way. Now we start to see some of the actual browns and yellows and oranges that are in the desert when you see it with your naked eye. And so I like to have the warmth up on this one just to reflect that a little bit. The next tool is saturation. This will be your best friend and your worst enemy. So saturation is going to increase the intensity of the colors in your picture. It's really the quick way to make a picture really pop and really sing and bring out some great colors, but it tends to get overused. People will oversaturate a picture, and anywhere where you've got those reds and those oranges, it really starts to look fake. And that's the last thing you want, is to look so fake that people know that you've been bumping up and enhancing and over-enhancing your picture. But you can see what it does. So bringing it up, watch the blues and the pinks up in the sky. I mean, those really start to come out. The color of that cactus there starts to come out. But if you get too far to the one side, now those pinks and oranges in my sunrise start to look like they've been over-processed. They get really grainy. They get lines around the edges of them. Everything just looks a little too fake. So I'm going to bring it back down. Now, if you desaturate something, go the other way, you can also get a cool effect where it fades the colors. And that's pretty cool. If you completely desaturate it, you get a black and white or sometimes a sepia tone, which is also really cool on this picture. But I'm going to go for color this time. So I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to go around 50, and we'll move on. Your next option is color. I don't use these very often, but there are times when they really can help. So you're going to have options in color. You can work with your shadows, or you can work with your highlights. So if shadows is selected, it's going to take anywhere in your picture that's a darker color, and you get to add a tinge to it of yellow or orange, blue, purple, whatever color you want. This is great for skies. It looks great on skies. The downside is it'll put that color over everything. So unless you want your whole picture to look orange or blue, a lot of times we don't use that one. Turn it off. sometimes on your highlights, if you have a really nice sky behind your subject and you really want the blues to come out, you can pick highlights, and the sky usually falls into the highlights realm. And you can pick blue or purple or whatever, and it'll add that color. I want a more natural look, so I'm just going to turn that off. We're going to go to our next one. I never use this one, really. I don't think I ever have. This is fade. Basically, if you just wanted a picture to look like a faded picture, it'll slowly fade out the colors. Maybe if you're going for an old-timey antique look or something, you can fade them out. I have never yet used it, but I always try it just to see what it'll look like. Next, you're going to get to some specialized ones. So this is highlights. This will do more for changing the brightness of your highlights and your shadows rather than add colors like before. So if I want my highlights to really pop out, you can bring it up. Too high will obviously wash out a lot of your color. A lot of times you'll have a picture that's really bright and you want the highlights to come down a little bit to give definition and bring the colors out, so you can take it this way. And you'll notice as you take it down, those highlights it takes away some of the brightness and you start to see some other colors. This starts to make that sunrise look a little fake again, so I don't want to go too much there, but I am going to bring it down just a little bit. Shadows is helpful if you have dark areas in your picture that you want to bring up, something that was hiding in a shadow cast on it by some other object. This will go for the dark areas of your picture and you can bring up the brightness of them. It'll basically do it to anything that's dark. It doesn't know if something is a shadow or not, so you have to be a little bit careful. But you can definitely bring out, so in that desert behind there, you can bring out some of those colors there. I'm just going to do a little bit. I don't want to do too much on that. We got 3 more to go. So vignette, I actually put vignettes on almost every picture I ever post. You don't have to, but I just like what it does. So vignettes where it'll add that darkness around the edges. And I find that adding darkness around the edges tends to make everything else in the picture just pop a little bit more. So I'll start my vignette, I always take it all the way over. So that's a full vignette, at least in Instagram. And then I'll work it back. But you can see as this darkens around the corners, you start to focus more on the middle. I don't like it all the way, but I'm going to go maybe halfway there. Tilt shift is a really cool tool. I don't use it that often, but in the right situation, it's perfect. So what tilt shift will do is it'll give you that cool effect where you can pick one object in your picture, and that will stay in focus while everything else will blur around. So if you've got kids playing a sport or just out playing and you really want them in focus and everything else blurred, this is really cool. You can pick if you want to do it in a circle or in a linear line shape. So if you pick circle, that's radial, it'll pop up and you can change how big the area of focus is and how small. So if I wanted just that back sunrise to be in focus, I'd put that on the sunrise and let go. It'll blur out my cactus, everything else except for right in there. So if you've got one thing that you want to pop and have everything else blur, that's the way to do it. Now in mine, I've got a cactus that's pretty linear, so I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to come over here to linear. You can actually turn the way that it works. So I'm going to bring it over here to my cactus and thin it up. And now you can see my cactus is completely in focus while it's blurred out the whole background, which is pretty cool. You can't really change the intensity of this effect, so it has to be the right situation. I think this is cool, but I'm just going to go back to my original. And then your last one is sharpen. So sharpen's basically going to just sharpen the edges, give a little bit of definition to everything. I sharpen a lot of stuff, but not very much. I usually like to add just a little bit. If you sharpen all the way, you get a totally different kind of cool effect, right? I mean, that's a pretty cool picture. What it did with the clouds, it makes everything look a little more grunge, which is pretty cool. That's not really what I'm going for in this picture, but I have used 100% sharpen on some things when it really does what I want it to do. I'm not going to do too much. I'm probably going to leave it under 50. And I'm going to stop there. So I'm going to call that my finished picture. You might tweak some things. Sometimes you'll change one effect and then you have to go back and redo a different effect because of what the one did to the other. But in general, pretty cool picture. Now here's where it gets really cool. Sometimes you don't realize what all you've done. You don't realize how much you've changed your picture. You think you've just brought out some things here or there. Well, if you want to see where you started from, you can always just tap the picture and see the original. And I think we could all say that the original it's a nice picture, but it's nothing like that. And when you think back to the picture, the morning I took that picture, the desert looked a lot more like this than that. I mean, that's why I stopped to take the picture, because it looked more like that. Really cool clouds, really cool sunrise, cool colors. But Technology isn't quite there yet with our cameras and our phones to be able to reproduce what the human eye can see. And so we can use these edits to make things pop, to get them closer to what we are seeing in reality, and in some instances, make them a little bit even cooler than we saw in reality. But the whole purpose of these edits, in my mind, is to show other people what I'm seeing. I mean, there aren't very many people that are out that early in the morning running around, and I want people to see how beautiful our desert is in the morning. And so I like to share these pictures. And Instagram has one of the best set of easy editing tools of anything I've ever seen, to where you can go in and take a picture and get it close to what you're seeing with the real eye and just make it look as beautiful as it is the moment that you saw it that morning. Because that's the whole purpose of Instagram and social media and sharing. It's not just to make people jealous of the fake things that we post in our life, but it's also to share the special moments of our life, the beautiful things that we're seeing, and spread some good things around in the world. All right, well, I hope that helped. I hope my fat fingers weren't in the way too much and you could see what we were doing there with those pictures. But as you can see, a picture starts off pretty dull. It doesn't start off anything like what I was seeing that morning when I was out jogging. But through those Instagram filters and edits and things that we could do, I could actually get it closer to what it really is that I was seeing. And sometimes you can enhance some things. Sometimes you can bring out things with those edits that you didn't even notice while you were taking the picture. And so I hope that as you apply these to your pictures, you'll be able to post better pictures of your family or of nature, of any of the cool things that you're doing, so that you can be a great Instagram photographer. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Feel free to watch some of our other videos over here on the side. I'd love to do anything we can to help you add a little bit more success to your life. Have a great day.